Happy Wine Wednesday, live. It's Brian. A few minutes late today because I had printer problems once again. I need to get the IT guy in here so I can figure these things out. But happy Wine Wednesday to you, and thanks for watching. If you participate, if you let me know that you're here, you have a chance to win a very cool prize. Once again, that $52 wine experience at Baker Bird Winery in Augusta could be yours. Have you done that yet? Have you been down there yet? You definitely should. They're still open weekends, wine and spirits, and they also have one of the wines, the wine styles that we're talking about today, the Big Daddy grape, Cabernet Franc. We'll talk a little bit about that. Hey Scott, thanks for tuning in. So Cabernet Franc is the feature of today's program, and it has a special place in my heart because it was the late 90s when I met my wife, and we got married up in Kettering, and I dragged her almost immediately to Virginia with me for a radio job. And Cabernet Franc is the grape that is most grown over there in Virginia, and it was actually the first decent red wine that I had, and that's kind of where this whole thing started for me. Hello, Linda. And what's interesting about Virginia is it kind of is the birthplace of wine when you think about it, because Thomas Jefferson was such a French wine guy. And up in Monticello, he tried so hard to make wine that tasted as good as the wines from Europe, and he failed miserably for many, many years. Didn't quite have the science down, but it started something. And eventually, the wines that he had hoped to make were beginning to be made. And in the 90s, it really boomed, and I had a chance to try some excellent, excellent wines in and around the Charlottesville area. Hello, Lisa and Evelyn and Maureen and Linda and Jerry also. Well, hello, Jerry and Linda. Actually, this was a suggestion. Somebody wanted me to do a Cabernet Franc show, so here I am. And Heidi, hello. So anyway, the wine we're having today is from a historic winery called Barboursville Vineyards. And we're going to talk a lot about other Cabernet Francs too, but Barboursville is where we found this particular wine. Here's the label if you want to pick it up in stores. Barboursville is a winery that is almost impossibly beautiful. I cannot tell you enough how gorgeous Virginia is if you've never seen it. It is just amazing. And it's one of the reasons why I just kind of got gobsmacked into loving wine as much as I do now. Because, I mean, and these pictures don't do it justice because it's only black and white, but this is Barboursville Vineyards. In the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains with these rolling hills, it's just incredibly green, and it sits on the site where the governor's mansion in Virginia used to be. Governor Barbour, hence the name Barboursville. You can see the ruins there. And Thomas Jefferson actually designed the mansion, and it burned down, but they kept it there, and it's become this really interesting place to have events, and just the scenery is just amazing. I mean, I'll give you an example of how wine started for me. My wife got a job at this graphic design place. They made t-shirts and screen printing and that kind of thing. And one of her co-workers' husbands worked at a winery called Oakencroft in the Charlottesville area. And we drove out to Oakencroft, and I'm thinking, oh, you know, I'll get a tour or whatever. Really wasn't into wine at that point. I was in my 20s. And we drove further and further out, started to go up into these mountains, and all of a sudden you see the vineyards, you see the vines in rows, and the rolling hills, and the Blue Ridge Mountains, which are really blue. I mean, they look so beautiful. And the fog rolling in, and I thought to myself, this is the most romantic thing I've ever seen. And then they took us into the wine room, and they let us taste some from the barrel. And that is my first wine experience. I mean, that just blew me away. And I asked the husband of my wife's coworker, I said, you do this for a living? And he said, yeah. And then he said, you know, we're not the only one around here. There's like 100 wineries within an hour's drive of Charlottesville. So next thing you know, we're driving out in the countryside, and we discovered Barboursville. So here's the thing about Virginia wine. Not everything grows there, but a lot of things grow really well. They do fantastically rich Viogniers and white wines, but Cab Franc is the official red grape of the state of Virginia. And I got really used to the taste of Cabernet Franc because it's a, hello Mary and Mary. And I learned a lesson about wine very early in my career. I was thinking when I came out of Virginia that I just loved all Cab Franc, Cabernet Franc. I love that grape. It's my favorite grape. Yeah, well, guess what? Cabernet Franc is one of those grapes that is way different overseas. And I learned that the hard way. I thought, well, you know, Virginia Cabernet Franc is rich and it's like raspberry and it's got this interesting root beer smell and it's got licorice and all this character and different layers and layers of flavor. And I had a wine from the Loire Valley in France. And the guy who was doing this particular tasting said, yeah, it's mostly Cabernet Franc. And I thought, I love Cabernet Franc. And it was the skunkiest thing I had ever tasted in my life. It smelled like a barnyard, a literal barnyard with like manure. I mean, it was crazy. Earth and funk. And it tasted like a vegetable cart. It was the weirdest thing. And it's because they make it way different over there. In the Loire Valley, it's a much cooler climate. And, you know, wines are meant to be drunk with food. Over there, it's definitely a food wine, and it's a great food wine for that type of food if you're eating vegetables and herb sauces, because it tastes like that. It's like a savory wine. I do not like that. That's not my style of wine at all. So I prefer what is called the New World style, which is a richer version of Cabernet Franc. But first, a little history as we take a look at the color of this wine. Just this gorgeous, gorgeous sort of a garnet color. Let this air out a little bit. So Cabernet Franc, I call it the Big Daddy because it is actually the parent grape of some of the more famous grapes that you know about in the world. Cabernet Franc is the father of Cabernet Sauvignon. It's actually a cross between Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. That's how you make Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet Franc is also the father grape of Merlot. It's the father grape of Carmenere, these great, great historic grapes that you see in Bordeaux and all over the place. Cabernet by itself, because of what I just mentioned about the barnyard smell and all that, it was normally a blending grape. That was primarily what it was for. It ripens early, so it gives a winemaker a chance to blend a particular style. Like if, for example, a winemaker making a blend thinks that the wine is too sweet, he might add a little Cabernet Franc in there to give it a little bit more of a bite, a little bit more earth, just to kind of balance those flavors out, because you don't want too much of one thing. And if you go to Chinon, which is primarily the region in the Loire Valley that produces Cabernet Franc wines, that's what you'll taste. A lot of that Cabernet Franc earthiness, and it's great with food, but drinking it by itself, not so much. Nope. Okay, so Barboursville Vineyards in Virginia. You may see it in stores. The Party Source has this particular wine for about 25 bucks, I think. You can get it online for 25 also. A little bit more money than I usually spend. But I think I have another option for you that's much less expensive and some other ideas. If you just want to try this grape and expand your palate a little bit. Hello, Ray. Hello, Phil. And I cannot tell you enough how wine has, you know, we talk about terroir, but it's more than just taste. It is the ability of wine, the magical ability of wine to put you in a particular time and place and transport you back when you're remembering a specific smell or a specific taste. Virginia is so beautiful, and there are all these wineries out there, and the scenery is just crazy pretty. And I have so many memories of learning about wine with my wife, and these you know, the young newlywed experiences with the mountains in the background and just the lushness and just the beauty around me, and getting to know the taste of Cabernet Franc and just how Virginia wine tastes. You just get a taste for it. You get an idea. And I have not had a Virginia wine in quite a while, and I immediately smell this, and it's like, I'm back. I'm getting excited. I'm sorry, but I just really liked Virginia, and it holds a special place in my heart for starting me down this crazy wine road. Hello, Acacia. She says you have to treat yourself once in a while. Indeed, even if it costs a little bit more. So let's see how this particular vintage, which is 2017 of the Virginia Cabernet Franc Reserve from Barboursville, stacks up. You ready? Here we go. This is it. This is Virginia in a nutshell. This is rich. You've got that crazy little root beer aroma, and then there's like just a hint of licorice, but it's all lush fruit. You've got raspberry and blueberry, but then what a long finish! Holy moly! A spicy kind of a cocoa finish, like a dark chocolate, almost like a bittersweet chocolate on the end, and a little pepper, and then it's like all pepper at the end. My goodness, layers of flavor, but this is just what I got used to drinking, and it's what I thought Cabernet Franc was. But Cabernet Franc is not that. Not that everywhere. It's that way in Virginia, so if you have a chance to try it, please do. Who else is making really good Cab Franc? The Finger Lakes area of New York State, making some really good Cab Franc. But again, more austere, because it gets colder up there. It tastes more like the French version. Not as lush as the Virginia Cabernet Franc. And then you go over to California, and Sonoma and Napa are making it, and it's a completely different animal. It tastes like something else entirely. If you want to taste, but you don't want to spend 25 bucks or more on a Virginia Cabernet, there's this wine called the Franc, F-R-A-N-C. I think you can sometimes get it at Target. About 15 bucks, 16 bucks. That tastes pretty good. It's pretty... It's the rich style of Cab Franc, if you want to give that a try. Baker Bird also has some Cabernet Franc down there. You could try that. That is, again, more of the food wine. You don't want to just sip it for pleasure. You're going to want to have that with a meal, and then it'll really make the vegetables and everything else on your plate come alive a little bit more. William says, I love Cab Franc. Okay, that's good. It's a great wine, but again, you got to be careful. What else? Oh, Cooper's Hawk has their latest wine of the month. It's the SAG Awards wine. Now, no offense to Cooper's Hawk, I love that restaurant. I love their food. Not all their wine is good. No. The Lux wines are good, though, and the wines of the month lately have been really good. And I really like the latest one that is made especially for the SAG Awards. Try that if you go to Cooper's Hawk, because that is a blend. It's like a Bordeaux blend with Cabernet and the usual Bordeaux grapes, but they added Cab Franc this year as well. So a little bit of that taste at Cooper's Hawk if you'd like that. Karen says, I agree, Virginia is beautiful. It is. It really, really is. And it was lucky for me. I think back on that a lot. You know, I had such a really good initial wine experience. If I had gone someplace where the wine sucked, maybe I wouldn't have been so enthusiastic about it today. But I lucked out. I was in a place where they made really good wines, and the winemakers were very open to letting visitors come in and see the process. And that just really started me on this weird road. Okay, so what else? New York, Virginia, the Mid-Atlantic states. Pennsylvania actually makes some reasonable Cab Franc. Heidi says, I've been through Virginia lots of times. It's very beautiful, so I can believe that. Lots of the wine there tastes wonderful. Yes, it does. And they're doing quite well. All right, so again, this Virginia Barboursville Vineyard Cabernet Franc is a little bit on the pricey side. It can be $30 in stores. So I went to the Party Source today and I said, you know, what do you have in the way of Cab Franc? And he said, oh, I've got a wine for you. It is called Octopado. Octopado from California's North Coast. Now, I've not had this, but this is $14.98. So if you want to try Cab Franc, Jimmy and Steve over there said, yeah, this is a good wine, and they just got a whole bunch in. They say that people have been buying this thing by the case. So let's pour some of this back into the bottle and try the Octopado and see how it tastes if you want a less expensive experience with Cabernet Franc. The Big Daddy grape. Octopado. And I don't know anything about this winery. I think it's relatively new. I don't even think they have a webpage. But it's from the North Coast, just off Sonoma there. Very rich color. So you can see this right here. This is the Octopado now. Really nice and dark. You can tell it's going to be rich. Much more purple than the Virginia. The Virginia was more transparent, more garnet. Also, let me know you're here if you've got a question or a comment, because give me a like, because somebody's going to win that $52 Baker Bird Winery experience. Just for saying hi. It's a pretty good deal, right? Okay, this is comparable in smell. It's got a little bit of that, a little bit more licorice to the nose compared to the Barboursville that we just tried. It smells like currant and some, I guess some blackberry, more blackberry than the raspberry that I tasted on the Virginia. But it's got a nice nose. Oh, also a little trick for you. You know, hello Denise. There are wines that you just can't smell. You know, they don't have much of an aroma. And I learned a trick recently from a sommelier I saw on YouTube. If you're not smelling anything in the glass, try this. Put your palm over the glass and then do the swirl and then let your hand off and then smell it right then. Yeah, that's like 3 times more intense of an aroma when you do that, because you kind of trap it in there. Just a trick for you. All right, see how this one tastes. Okay, that's a lot different. Blind tasting, a live blind tasting. What do you think? Okay, this is pretty good. I don't like it as much as the Barboursville, maybe because I'm just, you know, getting all nostalgic about Virginia, but it's pretty good, pretty good. This is, this has got a little bit of, it's more tannic. We talked about tannins a little while ago. The fruit is pretty good. It's a little spicier, a little peppy, a little more peppery. Blackberry, the predominant fruit flavor. Pepper. And then there's this finish, which instead of it being sort of a spicy, dry finish, it almost, you know how like there are certain grapes you try and they're delicious and sweet, and then you get one that is not quite ripe. That's what the finish tastes like. So this is reasonable. I mean, it's pretty good. For the price, $14.98, it's a great deal. But I would not put it as high as the Barboursville Vineyard version. So the Octopado, now on sale at the Party Source for $14.98. Definitely worth a try if you want to get into Cab Franc and get an idea about the taste. Acacia says, maybe try another drink since you just tasted the other one. Sometimes it takes a second taste. Yeah, I don't have any crackers. This is just my tongue right now and my nose. All right, Acacia, another drink. Are you trying to get me drunk? What's going on? Yeah, it's good. It's a good wine. Definitely for the price. But I don't love the finish. It's a little bit of a bitter finish. And that is the only complaint I have. The rest of it is good. The flavor profile is very similar. You're going to get a lot of that. It's a little bit more earthy. I kind of like the lusher New World style of Cabernet Franc. But anyway, Mary asks, where is the octopus wine made? North Coast, which is near Sonoma. Octopada is the name of this one. And this is the 2018. Just came in. And North Coast, California. All right, everybody. Thank you for the attention. If you're watching this live or on demand, makes no difference. Give me a comment, give me a like, because I'm going to pick somebody to win that Baker Bird Winery experience in Augusta, Kentucky. Wonderful visit, wonderful drive down there. And they've got, if you want to grab your husband and he's not into wine, they got brandy, they got bourbon too. So it's Baker Bird Winery and Spirits. Elise says, you need to add that to my list of wines to try. Yeah, please do. And it's fun. what I'm doing lately with my wife is I have an idea about a program I want to do, and then I'll grab like 3 or 4 bottles of that particular style of wine, and I'll just try them all. I mean, I'll be honest, this particular show is supposed to be about Shiraz, Australian Shiraz, and I grabbed 4 bottles, and I didn't like any of them. So I figured, well, might as well do something that I love. And Cabernet Franc is one of those historic grapes that, you know, it's responsible for so many of the wines that we buy today and love today that I thought it was worth its own show, and someone suggested it, so it's a win-win for everybody. All right, so that is all the program I have for this time. If you have any suggestions for future programs, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will pick a winner for Wine Wednesday Live about this time tomorrow. So leave me a comment or a like, and I'll see you next week.